The rain had been falling for hours, thin, needling streaks cutting to the dying light of dusk. The forest behind the old Miller farm reeked of copper and rot. Officer Luke Harlan knelt by the edge of the tree lean, his gloved hand trembling as he touched the first paw print. Blood, still warm. His K-9 Rex whined beside him, nostrils flaring, hackles raised. A missing child, a trail of blood, and prints that led straight into the woods. Luke's pulse thudded in his ears. He whispered, "Let's bring them home, boy." And together, they disappeared into the trees. If this kind of story grips you, the kind that crawls under your skin, stay close. There's more coming. The beam of Luke's flashlight sliced through the wet dark, bouncing off slick bark and hanging mist. Every step was a fight between duty and dread. The ground was uneven, riddled with roots and puddles that mirrored the dying light like broken glass. Rex stayed low, muscles taut, nose tracing the faint red streaks in the mud. Blood pooled near a fallen branch. Too much for a simple injury. Luke's stomach tightened. The dispatcher's voice still rang in his head. Missing child, female, age 8, last seen near the woods. Neighbor reports hearing screaming. He glanced at his radio, but didn't key it. No point until he knew what he was dealing with. "Easy, Rex," he murmured. The shepherd growled, ears pricking toward the darkness ahead. Then Luke heard it, a faint rustling. Not the soft sound of rain through leaves, but something dragging. Heavy, wet. Sheriff's office. Luke called, voice echoing off the trees. "If someone's out there, show yourself." Nothing, only the rain, and the wind, and the faint metallic scent that made the back of his throat burn. He crouched, shining the light over the next paw print. The pattern was strange. The pads looked distorted, uneven, like the animal had been limping. Yet the blood trail was steady, almost purposeful. It wasn't fleeing. It was leading. "Rex," he whispered. "Track." The dog barked once, short, controlled, and pressed forward. The forest deepened. Branches closed overhead like ribs, the canopy swallowing the last bit of daylight. Luke's breath fogged in the cold. He'd grown up in these woods. He knew the paths, the dips, the way sound twisted between the trees. But tonight, everything felt different. Wrong. Rex froze suddenly, nose to the ground, tail rigid. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Luke swung the flashlight ahead, and his heart dropped. A shoe. Small. Pink. Torn at the side. He knelt slowly, the mud seeping into his pants. The laces were undone. There was blood on the inside, smeared with dirt. "Jesus," he muttered. A child's shoe. The missing girl, Emily Cooper. He pulled a plastic bag from his vest, dropped the shoe inside. His throat was dry. Rex heel. But Rex didn't move. The shepherd's gaze stayed fixed on something in the darkness ahead. Lips peeled back, teeth glinting under the beam. "Rex." Then Luke saw it, two eyes reflected in the light. At first, he thought it was an animal, maybe a coyote, but the eyes didn't blink. They stared. "Hey!" Luke shouted. "Sheriff's office." The eyes vanished. Rex lunged forward with sharp bark, yanking the leash out of Luke's grip. "Rex, come." The forest exploded into motion, branches whipping, leaves scattering as Rex tore through the brush. Luke bolted after him, crashing through mud and roots, calling his name. "Rex, stop, heel." He followed the barking, then, suddenly, silence. A single whimper cut through the trees, followed by the unmistakable sound of chains rattling. Luke stopped cold. "Rex." Nothing. He moved slower now, one hand on his sidearm. The flashlight caught movement again, metal glinting in the mud. A chain. Old. Rusted. And then he found Rex. The dog was standing rigid, head low, body trembling. He wasn't hurt, but his paws were pressed into something half-buried. Luke knelt and brushed away the wet leaves. A trap, not an animal trap. Not something from a hunter. A cage, half covered in dirt, lined with straw, and inside, what looked like scraps of cloth, stained dark brown. Luke's breath hitched. He looked closer. The cloth wasn't just old rags. It was a dress. Small, pink, the same one Emily Cooper was wearing when she vanished. He stood there for a long time, rain dripping from his hat brim, flashlight shaking in his hand. Then the radio crackled to life. "Unit 12, this is dispatch." "You copy." Luke hesitated. His mouth opened, but no sound came. Finally, he pressed a button. "Go ahead." "We got another call. Neighbor says she saw someone near the woods again. Same direction you're in. Said it looked like a man dragging something." Luke's pulse jumped. Did she say who? No visual, just that he was tall, wearing a dark coat. "Copy that," Luke said tightly. He looked down at the cage again, at the bloody paw prints leading further in. Then he looked at Rex. "Stay close, boy." They moved deeper into the forest. Minutes passed, maybe more. The path narrowed until the trees pressed close enough to brush his shoulders. The rain eased into a mist, heavy and still. Then Rex stopped again, ears flicking forward. The dog's nose lifted, catching scent. His tail stiffened. Luke followed his gaze and saw a faint glow through the fog. Light. Flickering. A cabin. One he didn't recognize. He turned off his flashlight and crouched low, watching through the trees. The cabin was small, made of warped planks, half swallowed by vines. Smoke rose weakly from the chimney. Someone was inside. Luke's heart hammered against his ribs. He motioned for Rex to stay, then circled around quietly. The front door was cracked open, and the faint sound of humming drifted out, a woman's voice, low and almost childlike. He risked a glance inside. A figure sat by the fire, her back to him, long hair matted, a heavy coat draped around her shoulders. Her hands were busy with something on her lap. Luke squinted, then realized what she was holding. A doll, pink dress, blonde yarn hair. She was sewing something into it, something wet. The humming stopped. The woman spoke without turning. "You shouldn't be here, officer." Luke froze. "How do you know who I am?" She laughed softly, a thin, broken sound. "You're just like the others. You come when the blood calls you." Luke's hand went to his gun. "Step away from the fire, ma'am." "No," she said. "You'll ruin everything." Rex barked once, sharp and angry. The woman turned, and Luke's stomach dropped. Her face was pale, smeared with streaks of blood. Her eyes were empty. But what chilled him most wasn't her face. It was what lay behind her. A row of cages, small ones, each filled with scraps of fabric, bones, and he staggered back. "Dear God!" She smiled. "Don't you see? I saved them. They were all lost like her." "Where's Emily Cooper?" Luke shouted. The woman tilted her head. "Emily's not lost anymore." Before he could move, she plunged a knife into the doll's chest. The fire flared, blinding white. Rex lunged forward. Luke shouted, "Rex, no!" The woman screamed, the cabin filling with smoke and heat. Luke burst through the doorway, dragging her away from the fire, but she fought with inhuman strength, clawing at his face. He slammed her down, cuffed her hands, breath ragged. The doll smoldered beside the fire. "Where is she?" he roared. The woman's eyes flicked toward the corner. "She's right there." Luke followed her gaze and saw a small shape under a blanket. He moved slowly, hands shaking, lifted the corner. Inside lay a child, but she wasn't breathing. He dropped to his knees. "No, no, no, come on." He pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Nothing. Cold. Rex whimpered beside him. Luke's chest caved in. He whispered, "Emily?" The woman's voice drifted from behind him, soft and almost tender. "You're too late. The forest keeps what it wants." He turned on her, fury rising, but before he could speak, headlights flashed through the window. "Back up." 2 deputies burst, and moments later, guns drawn. "Jesus Christ," one of them whispered, staring at the cages. Luke stood, chest heaving. "Get her out of here." As they dragged the woman out, she started laughing again, low and hollow. "You think you saved her, but you're the reason she's gone." Luke didn't answer. He just looked down at the lifeless child, the faint trail of bloody paw prints beside her. The prints weren't all from Rex. There was another set, smaller, barefoot, leading out the back door. To be continued. The coroner's van pulled away. tires hissing through the mud. Blue lights washed over the trees, fading in and out like heartbeat pulses. Luke stood by his truck, drenched, staring at the old cabin as smoke coiled into the night. The rain had finally stopped, but the silence that followed fell heavier. Deputy Marla Keyes approached from behind, zipping her coat. Her face was pale under the rotating lights. We found 3 more cages in the shed out back. Empty. Same setup. Luke didn't look at her. His eyes stayed on the cabin door. Any sign of the others? Marla shook her head. Just bones. Old ones. Probably years. Luke's jaw clenched. She said there were others. She said she saved them. Marla shifted uncomfortably. We're still trying to ID her. No records. No prints in the system. She calls herself Mara. Luke exhaled through his teeth, voice low. She knew me by name. Marla's eyes flicked up. How? You didn't ID yourself. That's what I'm trying to figure out. He turned to Rex, who sat beside him, trembling but alert. The shepherd's coat was streaked with ash and mud. Luke knelt, running a hand through his fur. Good work, boy. You did everything right. Rex pressed his nose into Luke's hand, then looked toward the woods again, ears twitching. What is it? Luke asked softly. The dog whined, low and uneasy. Marla followed his gaze, then frowned. Don't tell me you're thinking about going back in there. Luke straightened. There were 2 sets of prints in that cabin. Rex's and another, smaller. They went out the back. Marla folded her arms. You think Emily was alive? Luke, she was gone. He looked at her sharply. I know what I saw. Those prints were fresh. Marla hesitated. You've been out here 6 hours straight. You haven't eaten, you. Either help me or don't, he snapped, grabbing the flashlight from the truck bed. Marla swore under her breath, but followed. Fine, but if this turns into another goddamn wild goose chase. Luke didn't respond. He was already heading toward the trees. The forest was different now. Quieter. The kind of quiet that made you aware of your own heartbeat. The moon broke through the clouds, silvering the wet leaves. Rex led the way, nose to the ground. Luke followed close, flashlight sweeping over the mud. The second set of prints was faint now, washed by rain, but still visible. Small, barefoot, the trail twisted deeper through the pines, where the ground dipped and pooled with black water. Frogs croaked in the distance. Somewhere an owl called. Marla muttered behind him. You really think a kid could survive out here alone? Luke didn't answer. His thoughts were elsewhere, on the cabin, on the woman's voice. You're the reason she's gone. He clenched his jaw. The phrase wouldn't leave him. How'd she even know about me? He murmured. Marla's flashlight caught the side of his face. What? He shook his head. Nothing. They pressed on. Rex stopped suddenly, paw hovering midair. His ears flattened, a low growl vibrating in his chest. Luke raised his gun. What do you see, boy? Then came a sound from ahead, soft, rhythmic, like something tapping wood. Marla lifted her weapon too. Could be an animal, not moving like one. Luke said. They crept closer. Through the trees, the beam of the flashlight revealed a shape, a wooden cross, half collapsed, covered in moss. Hanging from it was a child jacket, faded yellow. Luke's stomach twisted. Marla whispered, What the hell? Names were carved into the wood, faded but readable. Kerr, Jonah, Elise, and a new one, freshly carved beneath the rest. Emily. Luke stepped back, heart hammering. She's marking them. Marla's voice cracked. This can't just be her. Someone helped her build all this. Luke turned sharply. Meaning she's not working alone, Marla said. There's no way she dragged cages, buried bones, set traps, alone, not in her condition. Luke's mind raced. Then who's she protecting? Before Marla could answer, Rex barked, loud and sharp. His nose pointed toward something behind the cross. A trail of footprints. Small. Fresh. Luke's pulse jumped. She's close. They followed the prints downhill, through mud and reeds, until they reached a small stream cutting through the trees. The moonlight rippled across it like mercury. Marla crouched, touching the water. She crossed here. Rex barked again, louder this time. Then Luke heard it. Laughter. High-pitched. Childlike. Both froze. The sound echoed faintly across the stream, from somewhere up the ridge. "Emily!" Luke shouted. "It's okay. You're safe now." The laughter stopped. Then, slowly, a figure appeared between the trees. A little girl, barefoot, mud up to her knees, her hair tangled, her night dress torn. Luke's breath caught. "Emily," Marla whispered. "Oh my God." Luke lowered his weapon. "Hands out." "Hey, sweetheart. It's okay. You're safe now. We've been looking for you." The girl didn't move. Her wide eyes glimmered in the dark. "Emily," Luke said gently, "your parents are waiting for you. Let's go home, huh?" For a long second, she just stared. Then she tilted her head slightly and smiled. The kind of smile that didn't belong on a child's face. Luke froze. "Emily?" She pointed behind him. "He's coming." A twig snapped. Marla turned. "Luke!" Something massive lunged out of the dark. Rex barked, teeth flashing, as a figure in a tattered coat crashed into Luke, sending him sprawling into the mud. The gun flew from his hand. Marla fired twice. 2 sharp cracks splitting the night, but the man moved fast, slamming her into a tree. Luke scrambled for his weapon, heart pounding. He caught a glimpse of the man's face. Long beard, hollow eyes, skin stretched tight over bone. Not a stranger. "Jacob," Luke gasped. The man's voice was a rasp. "You shouldn't have come back here." Marla groaned, clutching her head. "Who the hell?" "My brother," Luke said hoarsely. Jacob's gaze flicked toward Rex, who was snarling, teeth bared. "Call him off, Luke." "Not until you tell me what the hell you're doing out here." Jacob's expression twisted. "You don't want to know." "Try me." The man's chest rose and fell like a trapped animal's. "We were supposed to protect her. That's what Mara wanted. To keep her safe." Luke's grip on the gun tightened. "Safe? She's dead, Jacob." Jacob shook his head violently. "No, she's not. The forest took her back, that's all." "Jesus Christ," Marla muttered. Luke took a step forward. "You were helping her. You helped that woman kill those kids." Jacob's face crumpled. "They weren't supposed to die. She said they'd be reborn." Luke raised a gun. "Hands where I can see them." But Jacob just stared at him, eyes full of something between madness and guilt. "You think you can fix this? You think arresting me will change what happened that night?" "What night?" Luke demanded. Jacob's voice broke. "You don't remember, do you? You blocked it out. What are you talking about?" Jacob smiled sadly. "You were the first one she saved." Luke froze. "That's not true." Jacob took a slow step closer. "You and me. Out here. The storm. You were just a kid. You found her cabin. You begged her to help. You brought her the others." Luke's hands trembled. "Shut up." "She made you forget," Jacob said softly. "But she remembered you. She always did." Luke's mind reeled, images flashing unbidden. A storm, a woman's voice humming, a cage door closing, children crying. He stumbled back, breathing hard. "No! Luke!" Marla shouted, raising her gun. But Jacob moved faster. He lunged again. Rex intercepted in midair, jaws snapping. Both crashed into the mud, wrestling violently. "Rex!" Luke yelled. Jacob screamed. Shoving the dog off, blood sprang from his arm. Then he bolted into the woods, vanishing into the dark. Luke aimed, fired once, missed. Son of a... He lowered the weapon, panting. Rex limped to his side, growling softly. Marla staggered forward, clutching her shoulder. What the hell just happened? Luke didn't answer. His pulse thundered in his ears. He looked back toward the stream. The girl was gone. Only small footprints remained in the mud, leading back toward the cabin. They reached the clearing 20 minutes later. The cabin was gone. Not burned, not collapsed. Gone. Only the foundation remained, half covered in ashen vines. Marla's voice trembled. "We were just here." Luke stared at the empty space where the fire had been. No, this isn't possible. Rex sniffed the ground, whining softly. Luke knelt, brushing his fingers through the dirt. Beneath the surface, faintly visible, were carved letters. LH. His initials. He felt the blood drain from his face. Marla saw it too. Luke, what does that mean? He swallowed hard. I don't know. But he did. Deep down, in the part of his mind that had been buried for years, the woods whispered around them, soft and endless. Rex lifted his head and barked once sharp. Then, from somewhere deeper in the forest, a familiar voice echoed back, soft, feminine, and haunting, humming, the same tune from the cabin. Luke's heart stopped. The humming faded with the wind, but Luke could still feel it inside his bones. Low, steady, familiar. It wasn't just echoing through the trees. It was echoing through him. Marla gripped her weapon tighter. That came from the east ridge. Luke said nothing. His hands were shaking as he switched off his flashlight. The forest around them was pitch black, except for the thin glow of the moon bleeding through the branches. Rex stood rigid beside him, his body trembling, nose pointed in the same direction. Marla hissed, "Luke, talk to me. What's going on?" He didn't answer. His pulse was thudding too loud to think straight. "You were the first one she saved." His brother's voice replayed like a cracked record. He looked down at the initials burned into the foundation stone, LH. And for the first time that night, Luke realized he wasn't sure which side of the story he was standing on. "Luke," Marla snapped, her voice sharp, dragging him back. "If you know something, now's the damn time." He swallowed. "There was a storm. Years ago, when Jacob and I were kids. We got lost out here." She frowned. "So, there was the cabin. I thought we dreamed it. My father said we made it up. He said we hallucinated from exposure." Marla stared. "You're telling me you've been here before?" Luke's voice cracked. "I think I've been here my whole life." They moved east, slow and silent. Every sound, snapping twigs, distant wind, felt amplified. The deeper they went, the thicker the fog became, curling around their ankles like fingers. Rex walked slightly ahead, sniffing the air. His body language had changed, not fear now, but focus, like he was following something old and known. The ground sloped upward until they reached a ridge overlooking a clearing. Below them, in the moonlight, stood the cabin. Ho! Smoke rose from the chimney. The fire flickered behind the windows. Marla's breath hitched. That wasn't there 5 minutes ago. Luke's voice was a whisper. It never really leaves. He started down the slope. Marla grabbed his arm. "You're not going there alone." Luke looked at her, tired, haunted, soaked to the bone. "You don't understand. I have to." "Luke." But he was already moving, Rex at his side, eyes locked on the flickering light. Inside, the air was heavy with heat and rot. The same low humming filled the space, circling him like invisible hands. The fire burned bright, but the room looked different, cleaner, like time had been rewound. The cages were gone. The smell of blood replaced by lavender and ash. And sitting in the wooden chair near the fire was Mara. Her wrists were still raw where the cuffs had bitten through skin, but there was no fear in her face. She looked calm, peaceful. "I knew you'd come back," she said softly. Luke stepped closer, gun drawn. "You're under arrest. Again." She smiled. "You don't remember yet, do you?" "I remember enough." "No," she whispered. "You remember what you can live with." Marla entered behind him, gun up, hands where we can see them. Mara's eyes flicked toward her briefly, then returned to Luke. "Your friend doesn't belong here. This isn't her story." Marla barked. I said hands. But the words froze in her throat as the floor beneath her creaked, a deep, hollow sound. She looked down. The boards were wet. Dark stains began to spread from beneath her boots. "Luke," she whispered, "what is that?" Mara's voice was soft, almost kind. "The blood remembers." Before Luke could move, the floor splintered. Marla crashed through it, screaming, swallowed into the darkness below. "Marla!" Luke lunged forward. Too late. The hole gaped open, steam rising from it like breath. Rex barked wildly, pacing the edge. Luke aimed the flashlight down, dirt walls, old wood, and dozens of faces staring up at him. Pale, empty-eyed, children, bones preserved by cold and mud. And in the middle, Marla lay motionless. Jesus Christ, he whispered. Marla watched him calmly. You see now. Luke's voice cracked. You killed them. She tilted her head. No, you did. His grip tightened on the gun. Don't. You brought them here. One by one. You just don't remember. You wanted to save them, just like me. He shook his head violently. No, that's a lie. She rose from the chair, chains clinking softly against her wrists. You begged me to make it stop. The noise, the screaming, the guilt. So I did. I took it from you. Luke stumbled back. Shut up. She stepped closer. And now you come home. Luke, the woods called you back to finish what you started. Rex growled, baring his teeth. Mara smiled faintly. He remembers too. Dogs always do. Luke's hands trembled. Images flooded back. Flashes of storm. A child's hand slipping from his. The sound of a scream swallowed by thunder. He saw himself younger, soaked and terrified, standing outside the same cabin. Mara kneeling before him, whispering, It's not your fault, Luke. I'll keep them safe. He saw her open the cage. He saw himself nod. He saw himself close the latch. He dropped the gun. Mara's voice softened. Now you remember. Luke's throat was raw. Why me? Because you were just like them, she said. Lost, afraid, left behind by people who didn't love you enough to look back. She reached out a hand. Come inside, Luke. Let me take the rest. For a moment, the weight of everything pressed down. The deaths, the guilt, the years of pretending he was one of the good ones. The badge felt heavy on his chest, like a lie. Then Rex barked, loud, sharp, defiant. The sound snapped him back. Luke grabbed the gun from the floor, raised it. Stay where you are. Mara's eyes widened, not in fear, but sadness. You'll just start over again. You can't kill what's part of you. He fired. The bullet hit her square in the chest. She staggered back, falling against the chair. Blood bloomed across her shirt. But instead of collapsing, she smiled. You've come full circle, she whispered. Then the fire went out. Silence. Only the soft drip of rain from the roof. Luke stood frozen, breathing hard, eyes straining in the dark. Mara. No answer. He stepped closer and saw the chair was empty. The chains lay open on the floor. Rex whimpered, stepping back toward the door. Luke turned, flashlight sweeping, but the cabin was gone again. Only trees. Fog. Mud. He was standing alone in the clearing. Marla's voice crackled through the radio suddenly, weak but alive. Luke, I'm out. I don't know how the hell I got out, but I'm at the trucks. Do you copy? Luke pressed the mic to his lips. Marla, stay there. Don't come back in the woods. Static hissed. Then, Luke, are you hurt? I saw her. I swear I saw. Marla, he said, voice shaking. Listen to me. It's over. Over? What do you mean? He clicked the radio off. Rex stood beside him, panting softly, his fur slick with rain. Luke knelt, wrapping an arm around him. Let's go home, boy. They turned toward the road. Behind them, deep in the trees, a woman's humming rose again, distant, sweet, and mournful. Rex stopped, ears twitching. Luke didn't look back. Epilogue. 3 weeks later, the investigation closed with no definitive answers. The cabin couldn't be found again. The woman known as Mara vanished from all records, leaving only fragments of fingerprints that matched no one alive. The official report said psychological breakdown under extreme stress. That Luke had imagined parts of what he'd seen. But late at night, when the wind blew from the forest, Luke would hear it again. Faint humming carried on the air. He'd sit on the porch, hand resting on Rex's head, watching the tree line. Sometimes, just before dawn, he'd see a small figure there, a child in a pink dress barefoot, staring back. And though his heart always clenched, he never moved, because deep down, He wasn't sure anymore whether he was a rescuer or the reason they all needed saving.